All right, and we're live. That's fun. Um, if you're a subscriber to this channel, you know that the videos are usually pretty highly produced. Each video takes maybe 15 or 30 hours to make, which is surprising, I know, because they're short and actually pretty simple. But it means that I have, ideas in my head and videos that I want to make, but they take too long. So I'm sorry that they do take so long for those that are finding value in it. But while I produce those videos, I thought it might be interesting on what's my Saturday morning. It's Saturday at 10 a.m. here in Toronto. If I try this live video thing, I'm not sure if we will get any reaction from people here. I know there's not a lot of us. There's only 260 of us in this community, but I'm really hoping that those of you who are here because you're finding value from what's being offered in the channel. So also, as you know, most of the videos are about Friends because it's the show that I've probably watched the most over the years. I watched it, in the 90s when it was actually, new. So every Thursday night, I would watch that. So that was a big part of like me growing up. And then after that, like a lot of my friends, I watched it on TV when it was being like rerun. And then I think bought the DVDs. And then now that it's on Netflix, it's still just like a nice, easy background show to put on. Even though I know exactly what the next lines will be, it's still entertaining. But because I know the lines so well, it's an easy show for me to analyze and pick apart. But sometimes I do have to guess, as I look at the English script, I try to figure out, hey, I think this is an interesting thing about the English language. And I think people would find this interesting, people like you who have a really high level of English. But as you probably know, because you're experiencing this, once you learn 99% of English, once you have, the grammar done and you can speak very well, you can do very well with like a TOEIC or an IELTS, something like that. There's this next level of getting like natural English, which is that last 1%, which unfortunately takes almost as long as the first 99% when learning English. That ability to have both perfect pronunciation and to have perfect ability with the actual slang. So to be able to watch a TV show, Friends is a great example because you watch Friends, you hear them say something, you may or may not understand what it is that person said, but then the audience laughs really loudly. So you're getting this cue that, of course, that is a funny joke. But if you don't understand it, then you have to ask yourself a few questions. And these are the answers that I try to give in each of the videos. Like, well, first off, obviously, why is that funny? And then second off, is it relevant now? Because for the example of Friends, right, it ran from 1994 to 2004. So there are times where a joke that was funny at that time just is no longer relevant today, now that it's 20 some years later. There's also sometimes New Yorkisms, which I've talked about, I think in the very first video. I talked about Joey saying this guy says, hello, I want to kill myself. It's a very Staten Island sort of thing to put two things next to each other. So it's like a cheap way to sound like you're from New York. Also this, you say New York. Oh yeah, New York, go on the subway. Okay, I can't do it very well. But there are really cheap, easy ways to make yourself sound like a New Yorker. So there are times when that happens in Friends too. And there are also times like Snapping His Turtle, where they're being cute with the language, and the reason for the joke is that no one has ever heard like those words used in that way before. Yeah, so try to answer all of those and then let you know if it's something that you can use in every situation or just particular situations. As you know, I think just like with every language, there are some things that you can say in all situations. But some things are just for business or just for friends or just, for when you're happy or just for when you're serious. And that needs to be deconstructed too, because sometimes obviously the point of a joke is that they're saying something very serious, but it's in a non-serious situation. Really, if you're undertaking the task, of watching Friends and really understanding all that jokes, that's really impressive. That's really high level English, because a lot of the jokes in a lot of TV shows that are comedies, like half hour TV sitcoms, are going to be jokes that are about the English language. So it's like a really cool final task for you to figure out. If you can get through the challenge of watching an entire episode of Friends and understanding that, that's awesome. I do have a recommendation for you. If you find that watching Friends is like, I understand all of that, and strictly from the point of view of learning English, you're like, I'm not getting anything from this anymore, then I would suggest Community, which was added to Netflix on April 1st, here in Canada at least. I don't know about the rest of the world, but a TV show, Community, which came out, I think, in 2010 and has 6 seasons. It also is like very silly, only a half hour long, and like very light. There's, much like Friends, like there is obviously like a storyline over the entire TV show over the 6 years. Like we follow their lives, but most episodes are just one like encased episode. So you can watch it, and once you're done, you don't need to like think about the next part. Or when you tune into an episode, you don't have to necessarily worry about what happened in the episode before that, which is great. I think it's more challenging than Friends, though, because they use more cultural references. It's just the way that the writers work. Friends writers really like, the writers of Friends really like to play with the English language a lot as a joke. The writers of Community really like to play with like cultural references. So I don't know. It might be challenging to watch if you didn't grow up in North America, because like even in the first episode, there's a reference to Breakfast Club that, I personally didn't watch that movie, but when I was growing up, because it's from the 80s, but those, like, it's still like, I know what that movie is and I know the quotes from it. So when one of the characters from Community directly quotes the Breakfast Club, and it's just like out of nowhere, it's very sudden. It's really, really, really funny. But in Community, there's no laughing track in the back, which gives you an extra challenge. You're like, wait, is this a joke or is this serious? Obviously in Friends, you get that feedback right away. If there's a joke, then the audience, which I don't know if it was a real audience or not, like, or if, yes, there was a real audience, but then they like put stuff over top. I've watched Friends so many times, and there are, in the first 2 seasons, there's one guy's laugh, like a laugh that a man makes, that you can hear, I think, like maybe 8 or 10 times in the first season in different episodes. So either that proves that they just used fake laughter, or that like maybe that was one of the producers or somebody that works for the show that was in the audience but was laughing. It's a possibility. The same is true for a particular laugh that you hear from a woman, and it's the same laugh. And you hear it throughout more seasons too. So again, it is possible it's one of the writers or something, but it makes me think that, yeah, maybe the laughter's not quite real in Friends. Still, it does give you a good clue, right? That, okay, this is supposed to be an extremely funny joke, given all the laughter that happened afterwards. Whereas if you watch Community, you're not going to get any of those clues. I only realized that while watching it this week, that there's no actual laugh track, and yet I find it extremely funny. So yeah, give that a try if you like. But there's no restriction on what I am like willing to dig into and cover. I just happen to gravitate towards Friends because it's such an easy go-to. But if you are a subscriber and you are watching English TV or English movies to study advanced natural English, and I assume you are because you're a subscriber, I invite you to please, let me know. Ask a question about anything that you hear in the ways that I talked about before. Ask, is this natural? Do people say this? Or why is this funny? Sometimes it's like this really only, unfortunately, this is like something that guys only say, or this is something that women only say, or only old people or young people. And that can let you know both why it's funny and whether you can actually use it in real life. These are super important things. Yeah. Even a show like, is it Gossip Girl? No, I forget the name of it because I've never watched it, but I know it's a popular one for ESL. Something it's set like in like Beverly Hills. It's not Gossip Girl. Maybe it is. It's something close to that. Yeah. Anyways, some of the language there is going to be like more California sounding. It's probably true of the country that you live in too, that there are regional dialects. And so if you talk in that way, then you're going to sound exactly like you're from, Naples, or you're from like Okinawa, or a very strong regionalism. Here in Canada, we have like Newfoundland. So if you tried to sound like someone from Newfoundland, then yeah, that's a really strong choice, and people are going to be like, why are you doing that? But I would gladly answer any question from any show, because I think I'm pretty happy about the guesses that I've made so far. As far as I'm listening to content and thinking, oh, this is a question that probably people would want to know about, but I don't know if those guesses are always right. And I actually had, is it the latest video? What was it? Yeah, the going home with a note video. I took that one entirely for granted. So it was an English language exchange partner that I'm working with. He is watching Friends now, and he asked me about that. Like, what does this mean to go home with a note? And that one, if I had just been watching on my own, watching Friends, and really thinking about, okay, well, what is a good thing to talk about as I'm listening to this episode? What jumps out to me as something that's really unusual English, or like what part of this is a really good lesson? That one just skipped right by me because I thought that was a pretty standard punishment throughout the world to send a note home. But yeah, learning that, I'm like, oh, right, okay, maybe not everyone does the same thing throughout the world, even with something as simple as that. So that was a good one to make, but a great example of me like wanting to hear from you to know what to talk about. So my divine hope was that I would be able to set up this boop, 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 face to face, and then also have this here like with an overhead cam there to like broadcast down there. But I have no idea how to do that, despite being pretty technologically savvy. Well, I should say, yeah, there's definitely a way to do it with buying like a $500 device, this like web streamy X2 thing, but that just seems like overkill to me. There's got to be another way to do it. And that might have to do with getting more subscribers, because we're a tiny little channel, which I love. I love that you're here and hopefully you're getting some value out of these videos. And I hope some of you will start to join these sessions and give me suggestions, so that in addition to the prepared and produced videos that get released, that we can sort of hash out answers and work through some problems here together in a quicker way that sort of gets through more questions. So what I will do, I'll talk about one right now that I tried to produce a video for, but it just became too complicated. And it might be more freeing for me to do it just with pen to paper. So this question was asked on the TV-ESL website. So when you go to the TV-ESL website, right away there's a search bar where you can search for anything. And it's really easy for me to get notified if somebody searches for something, but it's not in our catalog of answers. And one of them searched for Minnie, as in my grandmother, which I think is Friends episode. It's season 1, and I think it's episode 1, if not like episode 2 or 3. So Ross and Carol are talking about naming their baby. And Ross says, well, what about, he says, what about, I forget what he suggests. But yeah, so anyways, Carol says, what about Minnie as a name? She suggests Minnie. And Ross says, Minnie as in mouse? And Carol says, Minnie as in my grandmother? And that's what the person searched, Minnie as in my grandmother. So there's two possibilities of what they're searching for there that they don't quite understand. The first one is like the actual grammar of as in. And I was going to try to figure this out in a video, but let's try to do this together here. So when I think like X as in Y, the as in is like a box. So I'm going to do like, here's a box. This is where the two cameras will be awesome, but for now. Okay, so here's this box, right? And this box sort of sets a scene. It creates a condition or a situation. So like, it's like if it was a play or a movie, it's like, this is a coffee shop and two people are sitting in this cafe and talking. That's the scene. So as in actually sets a scene. So Ross says Minnie. Well, okay, the word in question is Minnie. Right, the name is Minnie. And they need context for this. So as in is like a context setter, and you can visually think of it as this box. So Minnie, there are different contexts where Minnie could mean different things. There are really not that many, but so one context where Minnie is a thing is this context, which is the Minnie mouse. And here's me drawing really, really, really poorly. And I don't draw. But anyway, so there's Minnie mouse. So when we have Minnie and there's no context and we don't know what Minnie is attached to, here's one context filled in this box, Minnie mouse. So the box is as in. You go Minnie. So which Minnie is this? This is Minnie as in Minnie Mouse? Yeah, so literally like you put Minnie in the box. So you're treating the word Minnie as though it's in the Minnie Mouse box. So Minnie as in Minnie Mouse. Or Minnie, this pen is too thick. Let's try classic Sharpie. Minnie, that's better. Carol's grandmother. So here's an entirely different context. Remember that as in is a context marker. So here's Minnie's grandmother. I'm going to give her a lovely long head of hair. And of course, she's got glasses and a smile. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so this is Minnie, Carol's grandmother. And it's also inside, and oh, that stinks, the marker, whoo! And it's also inside this box. So this is the as in box. So a box is like, a box is a context marker. There's a context marker. So anything inside a box, that's the context. So here is another context where you can use Minnie. So I'll just draw an arrow here. So really there are two possible contexts for Minnie. If you just heard the word Minnie, as Ross does, he's like, wait, which Minnie are we talking about? The Minnie that exists inside this box, Minnie as in Minnie Mouse? Or Carol says Minnie as in inside the context box of Minnie, Carol's grandmother. Minnie as in Minnie Mouse, Minnie as in my grandmother. Here's the next part to that. So this, I'll give you another example to show you this, to sort of demonstrate. I try to do this in all of my videos to show one or two different similar examples so that you can see, hey, this doesn't happen just once, this happens in multiple places, and you can see the relationship across those two, which I think is quite useful as well. So here's another one for you that you'll hear people say. I have no idea what the shape of this is. Give me a second here. Well, you know what? I'll just do the words. Da, da, da. So you may know this because you're probably here because you've watched Friends, that New York City is in New York State. So it's New York, New York. Well, you probably know that because it's in like pop music. So when someone says, I'm from New York, then you might ask somebody, oh, New York as in New York State or New York as in New York City? Both of them give context, right? The boxes give context to the New York in question. Because otherwise, yeah, people don't know. Is this literally backwards because it's trying to... that's not so great. I hope that's just my Mac trying to flip it for me to see, so I see my own face my own way, and that you're not seeing this backwards. If you're seeing this backwards, that's so sad. I'll find out after. But this is the fun of the first time. You just gotta like not be perfect the first time and then improve from there, because otherwise I'll never do this. I've been thinking about doing this for such a long time. So if someone said, yeah, I'm from New York, you might say, wait, New York as in New York State or New York as in New York City? Same sort of context to this, like, wait, Minnie as in Minnie Mouse or Minnie as in my grandmother? Now, if you know this scene, then you know there's another level to this. And I'll make this first by going with the New York one. If you have this thing where you're saying New York as in New York State or New York as in New York City, if the word here is present within the as in box, then you can optionally take that word out. So you could say New York as in New York State, or you could say New York as in state, because you already know the New York part. So wait, you live in New York as in state or as in city? You could also say, yeah, New York as in New York City. Hiro! Hey, Hiroki, that's really nice of you. And so late at night. That's wicked. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so you could say New York as in New York State or New York as in New York City, or just keep it really simple. And just like with most languages, where I think we're always looking for efficiency, we're looking for the fewest words possible, especially when you're trying to be natural, right? So you'd say, oh wait, New York as in state or New York as in city? So of course, if we go back to this example of Minnie Mouse, Ross says Minnie as in, and he could say, wait, Minnie as in Minnie Mouse? Totally acceptable, totally correct. But because he's just talking with Carol and it's a natural conversation, he actually takes the Minnie part out, right? He says Minnie as in mouse. And I can understand that that would be a little bit complicated for, you know, someone that's learning natural English. But it's a pretty simple rule and totally repeatable, as you can see from the New York example. So he says Minnie as in mouse, and then Carol says Minnie as in my grandmother. She's saying that I want to name our kid Minnie because that's the name of my grandmother. And then the second part of why I am wondering if this person asked that on the website, asked that question, is that they didn't understand why that created a laugh. So I think most of you will probably understand how as in as a grammar particle works. Like that's what this was all about. If you have that, you know, figured out and you're wondering why was it funny, you know, Minnie as in my grandmother, or why Carol would sort of assign that as in. This goes to the most recent video that I produced, which talks about how English names in North America are very strongly tied to the year in which the baby was born. So most names become very fashionable very quickly based on you can Google like most popular baby name in 2020 and you can see what the most popular names are right now. And amazingly, like that, the top 20 names that are popular right now will actually take up a lot of the actual baby names in the overall population. So that when you hear somebody's first name, you can actually have a pretty good idea of how old they are, like which year they were born in. So as I think I said in the video, so my name is Chris. And so I was born in 1981, and that was almost the most popular year. So the popularity of the name Chris sort of peaked around 1979 to 1983 and then faded away, which means as a result in my classroom growing up, one year, because it was a mix of 2 grades, my class, it was like grade 5 and grade 6, there were 5 boys named Chris, including me, which was unbelievable in a class of 30, but also not unbelievable because it still happens now. We see this all the time. And that's true with Minnie too. So Minnie was a name that was really popular in, I mean, enough so that it was Carol's grandmother's name. So Minnie, I did write it down somewhere because I was going to make a real video about this, but it's just too much. Those as-in boxes would have been really hard too. There it is. Okay, Minnie was popular in, yeah, like 1880. Yeah. And then by 1970, there were like an unremarkable, they couldn't even chart it anymore, how many people were named, named Minnie. I watch a lot of shows on Netflix too, especially now with most people on lockdown in one way or another. Yeah, I've watched a lot of episodes of Community lately. Like that's full on binging. Which is good, I guess. It's nice to catch up on all of that stuff. What are you watching? Is it like all English stuff? Someone suggested Ozark, and then someone made a joke about Ozark, like one of the late night comedians. So I might try it. Glee, nice. Oh yeah. I actually don't know Lucifer. Is it the United States office or the British office? The British one is, yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, the U.S. office is like, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't. Yeah. I didn't watch it when it was actually on TV, and then I watched it starting last year, and then I got really sad when one of the characters left near the end. And yeah, and then I think there's 10 seasons, and I think I completely skipped the last season and just watched the last episode to sort of button it up and finish it all off to say, okay, yeah, I did watch The Office, but oh man, the last season was tough. But the first 8, yeah, I loved them. They're super good. So maybe I should do videos on that. So yeah, your English is amazing, and so there probably aren't many questions that you get. But if you have any questions as you're watching, that might be a good show for me to start answering questions about. Because that one too is like, I don't think it was after Friends. It was 2000, I think, right? That it came out. Something close to 2000. But that's already like a little bit dated. The Office, IMDb, USA. 2005 to 2013. Yeah. So it's starting to get a little bit dated. So there might be some references that like don't make any sense anymore. And they're in Scranton, so at least there's, you know how I said, like, you know, in New York, there's very New Yorky things. So in Friends, there are New Yorky jokes. But for The Office, I don't think there are any Scranton, Pennsylvania sort of like overgeneralizations or caricatures or jokes to make. So I think most of what they say sounds just generally American, which is great. Yeah, it might be really good for English learners. Because there's a bit of like business English in there, which is good, but like mostly just natural friend-to-friend English. Yeah. I used that joke yesterday even. Yeah. In a work situation, but privately, one-to-one, with one other person. Yeah. Michael Scott's just so charming. Yeah. It's like, and it's super inappropriate joke, but yeah. Yeah, that's still pretty common for people that used to watch the show. Well, that's 30 minutes. That's probably way too much to ask people to watch. But I'll tell you what, I'm glad, Hiroki, I'm glad you joined. This is awesome. It's a good way to catch up. And like that's good inspiration enough to let me know that maybe The Office is a good show to concentrate on. So I'll concentrate on, keep doing Friends and The Office. And do you know if Community, have you seen Community on Netflix? Is it available where you are? Like, I don't know if they just released it in the States. You know how Netflix releases different things in different countries. You stay safe too. Thanks. Yeah, check out Community if it's available where you are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might hate it. It might be a little divisive, but and there are some episodes that I just skip because some of them are really weird. Like one of them is entirely in claymation, like clay. Um, and there are three distinct episodes about paintball, and it's just no fun. It's not my thing. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. This was fun. I'm gonna have a good day, and you're gonna have a good night. And thank you so much. Bye.